was she said that she will never purchase an item unless she can, through a little bit of analysis, figure that it will cost at most $1 per use. So in one of her examples, she was like $1,000 for a watch, right? I have a watch on. This was not a cheap watch, but I wear it like every single day, right? So for me to wear this for, and this will last for a decade, right? So 365 days a year, a decade of use. I spent way less than $1 per use. We try not to make this super specific in any kind of way. So that way, like everybody listening, it may not be right for you right this second, but it's probably something that you're going to go through at some point in your life. So
I think this topic is, relevant for everybody.
It is
out there.
And that was my segue there. So, the question at the end of this is, what is your buy it once story? You're like, what the heck does that mean? Well, we're going to tell you. Let's walk it in. All right. So that the thought process, like the thought that I had here, the thought that is there is sometimes we need something. We need to buy something. And there is the expensive thing. And then there's like the knockoff thing. Mm-hmm. So the question is, when should I buy the expensive thing? And when should I buy the cheap thing? The little visual that went out in our Sunday series email is kind of a circle, and it just says, buy good things, own them a long time, you're able to buy more good things. So the idea is when we purchase the nice things, sometimes we have less need for replacements, so we can save more money and buy more nice things. And the more nice things we buy, the less junk that we need to buy, right? So what's your thoughts there?
So I would completely agree with it. You're buying quality over buying quantity, or buying the same knockoff, every 6 months, just because you may have rushed into a purchase instead of like sitting back and thinking about it. And kind of what you were saying earlier when we were pre-recording was, you bought something that lasted 6 months, and over a 10-year period of time, you would have to buy it 18 times. Yeah. Whereas I bought something that was high quality. It cost a lot more, but I'm still using the same thing after 10 years.
Yeah. I like, full disclosure, I really hate spending money in so many ways. I will spend money. When I spend money, it's typically on nice things. But if I have to buy something that I don't really want, I'm always looking for the cheap thing. So what we were talking about, and the thing that you brought up, was we were talking about our briefcases. Mm-hmm. And I'm currently carrying around a broken briefcase where the strap is tied to the side of the bag because the buckle thing broke. This briefcase, when I went to go buy a briefcase, because I actually do need a briefcase. I carry laptop and books and notepads and all this stuff, to my home, to work, to client appointments, to coffee houses. I like to have my stuff with me. So I needed a briefcase. So I went to Amazon, typed in briefcase, found one I liked, found a couple that I liked, picked the cheapest one, bought the cheapest one. Spent about $50.
And it's already broke.
I've had it for 6 months maybe. You, on the other hand, dropped some coin on a briefcase how many years ago?
9 years ago.
So you spent about how much?
I think it was like $250, $300, something like that.
So let's even just call it $300, and let's do some quick math. And you bought this 9 years ago, and you haven't had to replace it,
and I still use it,
and it still looks good
right here. Yep, use it every day.
If I would pay $50 twice a year, so $100 a year for 9 years, I'm going to pay $900 in briefcase cost.
Yep.
For one that's way less nice and way less cool looking, because in the my brain is telling me, well, I just spent $40 or $50 on this briefcase. I saved money because I don't want to spend $250.
Yep.
So again, going back to that circle, buy good things, own them for a long time versus buy junk, own junk for least amount of time. The replacement stuff.
So
replacement costs.
You have a couple things. You have replacement costs because you're going to have to replace it, twice a year in this scenario. The other thing that I just thought about was it's not just spending the money over that period of time and you're going to end up spending more, but it's it breaks down to the opportunity cost because you have to go back online, you have to reorder it, you have to spend time doing this where I haven't even had to think about a briefcase, and it's something that takes up brain power, it takes up time that you have to think about this when you could be thinking about other things. So that's something I just thought about just now.
Yeah, that's in the email I wrote that something along those lines.
Yeah.
As I said, you can buy it once and use it for 20 years, or you can buy the cheap one and have to deal with the cognitive, emotional, and logistical drain of perpetually having to replace them. So you nailed that.
That's exactly. Yeah, that's exactly.
So this topic kind of is relevant. It came to mind largely because we're in this space where, like, I think you said this. We were talking to a client and we were like talking about spending and saving and, managing taxes and managing debt and all this stuff. And there's this notion, some people actually like choose to like commit so hard to savings that they're kind of depressing people to be around.
Right.
So you said something to the effect of like our mentality here is happy now, happy later.
Yep.
Right. I wrote down in prep for this, we talk about cash flows often. Cash flow, you got to understand your cash flow. Once you understand your budget, your required spending, your required savings, once you figure out like what's going to go to taxes and what's going to debt, you're left with this like free cash flow, right? And you can choose to continue to save with that. You can choose to give to charity or church with that. You can choose to also spend it. And I think when we figure out our cash flows and we master that piece for ourselves, we can give ourselves permission to spend money.
Yep.
And I think that's important. I wrote down this. I said, there is psychological and emotional impact to too much frugality and over saving. It can be a drain. So let yourself be like okay with spending some of your money. Be happy now too.
Yep.
Right.
And if your cash flows and everything is correct, then you can go make a purchase without having that guilt or having, the buyer's remorse because you've been practicing, your cash flows, and again, you're giving yourself permission to go make a purchase without that guilt or regret.
And just a little bit of a shameless plug here. There are about 1,000 different tools for budgets, for cash flows. You can get super cheap and just get like on an Excel spreadsheet or a pen and paper. But we have an app that we use for our clients. There is ability to kind of subscribe to that process there. It's the cost barrier is very, very inexpensive, affordable. The value is huge. If you have questions about that, just reach out to us. Shoot us an email. We can talk about it. We can demo it. We can show you. You can check out our website. There's a whole page committed to how the app works, the process. You can see all of our costs there. We have no secrets. So check it out. All right, back to this. One of the things that I appreciate about this thought is if it's time for me if I need to go buy a new briefcase and I'm like, you know what, Josh, I'm listening to you. I like what you're telling me. I'm going to buy quality. So I have about $50 right now. I can save about $50 towards this thing. So probably for the next 5 months, I'm going to be carrying my laptop in a grocery bag.
Or the broken bag that you have now.
Or my broken bag. I'm going to keep the broken bag I have now. It's going to be a painful wait.
Yep.
But in 5 months, I'll have $250. I'm going to go out and buy the briefcase that can last 9 years and still be kicking. What I love about this,
About the weight
is a couple things. Is first of all, when we elongate our purchase cycles, we give time for emotion erosion. I just made that up. I thought it sounded good in my head.
Makes sense.
We allow the emotions to subside in the purchase so that that impulse buy, right, isn't there. We've thought about it. We were talking about this in show prep. I'm like, I can imagine wanting a briefcase so bad, going and purchasing it, and then the next day be like, I don't even have a job that necessitates this. Why the heck did I buy this?
Just because it looked cool in the magazine.
Because the dude carrying it in the magazine looked awesome.
Yeah,
he looked so important. So the notion there is if I elongate the buy cycle, if I give myself if it's going to take 5 months, the emotional side of things will go away.
Yep. The practicality comes into it.
And the values and practicality and all these things, it allows me, do I really need this? Is this really important? Is it going to help me? Is this going to save me time? Is it going to give me time back? Is it what is this going to do?
And over that time, you might go, I really don't even need this.
Well, and like I mentioned earlier, it is very important for me to be able to take my laptop and books and stuff home with me. But what if my value was hey, I don't want to work when I'm at home? Right? Now all of a sudden I'm purchasing something that is actually going to be...
It's conflicting.
In conflict with my value of not working when I'm at home, right?
Yep.
My family time is my family time. And now I'm just buying a tool to allow my work to follow me home, right? So these kinds of longer buy cycles allow for you to think through that. Also, just imagine this thought: pride and accomplishment does more for you, more for us, than the emotion of fulfillment that you get through immediate gratification. Again, pride and accomplishment does more for you emotionally, does more for you psychologically than any kind of impulse buy or that immediate gratification that we get from the quick thing. So with that being said, again, now that this is going to take 5 months, I'm going to have to work. I'm going to have to be disciplined. And I don't know about you, but if you've set this process over and over again, usually we're creatures of habit, right?
Yep.
So if I can be disciplined and feel the reward and be proud of this thing I'm carrying around on my shoulder, that's going to perpetuate itself into other areas.
It's going to carry over, and it's compounding.
So it's a simple thought. And again, back to what we're trying to do here is give you guys something where you can just sit on it for a little bit of time. Think about it, maybe 10, 15 minutes a day for the week to come. But this is profound, and it bleeds over. And if to master this, it means you've checked in and probably have control of your cash flows. It means you're aware and conscious of your budget. You know what you're saving for. You have goals and priorities, and you know that it's going to take X number of months. So I got to suck it up and carry this broke briefcase around for a little bit. Mm-hmm. It creates discipline, and we learn to limit our expectations of that need for immediate gratification that's perpetuated everywhere in our world. We get rewarded with pride, with accomplishment. And then once we're rewarded and we understand how that feels, we seek it out. So what other areas of my life can I do some disciplined hard work and endure something for a set amount of time and then walk away with this pride? We seek that. You start to develop yourself and become better. And it's all because I just waited 5 months to buy a better briefcase, right?
Right.
What's your thoughts? What kind of thoughts do you have?
It always comes down to, or comes back to, that compounding effect. You do a little bit of something over an extended period of time, it's going to make you a better person. And it's probably the chances of it aligning to your goals or your financial why are probably a lot higher by doing that. So it's like you said, you're being disciplined, you're waiting 6 months to buy something. You get there, you might not need it. It might not be as important as you think, or it might conflict with what your sprints or your goals are. And that helps you. The compounding part of it is it helps you identify things that you otherwise might not have identified if you just impulse buy something, and then you get that instant gratification. But then in a month, you're like, I don't even need that.
Yeah.
You're
talking about impulse buys. It also, like, I've had this conversation with so many people, like, close to me. I think of my mother, just like, she's like, oh, I bought this because it was on sale. Right? Like, I bought it because it was cheaper than it normally is. And it's like, it's on sale, but it's not something you ever would have needed unless you saw that sale tag, right? So it's like sometimes we just purchase stuff because we feel like there's an opportunity, when really what we're doing is we're being marketed an opportunity that isn't an opportunity.
Right.
And we're missing out down the road on the opportunities that could align with our values, with who we are, those moments. Like, how much more could we do if I wouldn't have just been razzle-dazzled by this thing on the shelf at this one time, and like seeing it made me think I have to have
every time I go to Costco.
Man,
they've got some of the best golf clothes out there. I've got 40 different zip-up pullovers, but every time I go to Costco, it's like, half off.
It's only $10.
It's only $10. I gotta have this. Yeah. I don't really need it.
No,
it doesn't. I don't need a 41 pullovers.
Right. And if you would have stopped at $10 times 30, that's 300. That's a replacement briefcase that could last 9 years. I mean, we just got to understand, like, and I think it's really like, if we keep coming back to this, it's so important that we've talked about this probably 1,000 times. And it's just the fact that if we're value driven, if we're purposed in what we do, if we act in accordance with our goals, if we have plan in place, if we have all these things going for us, we tend to be less distracted and we get to where we want to be quicker. It's when all the things start to creep in. And it's just every time something comes up, every time the small little purchase or this, it's just that little nibble of something being taken away from what do you want? We've talked about the difference between cash flow planning and goal-based planning, and how I'm a proponent that they both have to exist. Like there are some financial planners out there that will want to work from goals, but they don't consider the cash flows, right? So they're just kind of like, yeah, you can have this great grand goal, but if you don't have the tools and resources to get there, you're not going to get there.
Yep.
So we got to do some cash flow analysis. We got to compare that to our goals and make sure the two are aligned, right? So I always, one of my drawings is like a heart sign and a money sign, and it kind of directionally, we want to get them to where they're overlapping, right? We want the heart and the money sign in the same circle. We don't want them completely separate. We don't want a little bit of overlap. We want them in the same circle.
Yep.
So that's, buy good things, own them for a long time, repeat that process.
Yep.
Work on your cash flows, have some pride in what you're accomplishing, have some nice stuff. We didn't even get into the part of the conversation about like the notion of appreciating assets. We can talk. I really like the.
We had the golden nugget where he's talking about where one of the mentors said, I wish I would have never sold an appreciating asset.
Yeah. So we looked at that,
and you look at that.
You would assume he isn't buying good things if he doesn't want to sell, if there's an appreciation in their value. But we were talking about.
But real quick, with the appreciating asset, 9 times out of 10, that's something that you had to take time. You had to save up for it. You had conviction in it. It aligned with your goals, and you made the purchase. It took a lot longer. There's not any instant gratification, but once you do it, you have that conviction and that, talking about the happiness and filling up your cup. Like, more than likely, that's going to do it compared to, just an impulse
share. So I'll share my dollar per use thing. What was the thing that you brought up?
So I heard this a long time ago. It's if you're buying a depreciating asset, or just something that you necessarily don't need but you want, you should be able to buy it 10 times over before you make that purchase. If you can do that, then your cash flows financially, you're able to do it. You're able to spend money, and it's not going to affect you. It's not going to affect your goals. It's not going to, get in the way of reaching your goal.
I wonder how that perpetuates. We talked about that, but I didn't really think about that. I just had this thought is like, okay, back to that. We're wildly abusing this briefcase analogy, but my $50 briefcase. So you're saying it's definitely something that's going to probably end up in the trash and be worthless, right? So I should be able to afford that 10 times over to make that purchase. So 50 times 10, $500. If I'm going to spend $500 on that, why not just buy the better briefcase?
It's true.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so that thought, that the thing that you heard a long, long time ago, kind of just like echoes this mentality.
It goes into this too. Off the briefcase and out. Like, so I just went to this really fun, to my wife, fun amusement park down in Florida, and it was expensive.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where, that's something you should not do unless you can do that 10 times over and it doesn't affect you financially.
That's fair.
Why put your family at risk to go spend $5,000 down there just to make your kids happy for one weekend, that instant gratification? Or save up, do a smaller trip, or save up, and then when the kids have to wait 3 years to go to this place,
how much more more
are they going to appreciate that?
Yeah.
And never have a lifelong memory.
That's awesome. I have another little kind of spending thing that I read a while back. This is from a lady who, it was a news article that came out, and I don't remember all the details, but it was something to the effect of like she was a self-made millionaire at the age of like 33, and she only made like 60 or 80 grand a year. So wildly diligent with her resources, right? So in her thing, one of her tips of how to get there was she said that she will never purchase an item unless she can, through a little bit of analysis, figure that it will cost at most $1 per use. So in one of her examples, she was like $1,000 for a watch, right? I have a watch on. This was not a cheap watch, but I wear it like every single day, right? So for me to wear this this will last for a decade, right? So 365 days a year, a decade of use. I spent way less than $1 per use on that.
Correct.
Right? On the flip side, I just went down recently and bought like a coat, and I was looking at other coats. There were some wildly expensive coats, right? In that same, like I live like in Franklin, Tennessee, like winter doesn't last forever.
Yep. So
in a season, I might wear this coat like 10 times. I have other coats, right? One of the coats costs like $400. I'd have to wear this coat 400 times. If I only wear it 10 or so times a year, isn't that like 40 years? Is that good math?
I don't know. It's a long time.
It's a long time. And so how much is my body going to change? What's going to happen to style? Like the reality is I will probably not be able to wear that coat enough to get it down to $1 per use. So it's not a purchase, right? Yep. So anyway, just a cool thought on how to like figure out if it's something even worth buying is can I, like in your case, back to the briefcase, $250, $300, you've carried that 5 days a week at least for 9 years.
Yep.
I can't do that math in public, but that's a lot of, you're way under $1 use. My $50 briefcase for 6 months, it might be barely, but yours is definitely a better value, right? So some tools there to think about like purchases, but really going back, like what we want to deliver today is just that knowledge that you can buy good things and spend less money. And I think it proves true. What is your buy it once, spend less money story? We would love to hear it. Send it to us. You got anything else?
Nope.
All right.
Good to go.
Take care, guys. See you soon.
See you.
We hope you learned from our conversation today. It is important to us that you know this is for educational purposes and not intended to be considered specific advice for any individual listener. If something we discussed is relevant to you and you have questions of how it might be applicable to your specific situation, please reach out to your financial professional Of course, we are happy to have further conversations with you regarding specific questions or applications to your individual financial situation. With that, here are a few disclosures. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA, SIPC. Investment advice offered through Private Advisor Group, a registered investment advisor. Private Advisor Group and Harpeth Wealth Partners are separate entities from LPL Financial. The opinions voiced in this material are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a decision. All performance referenced is historical and is no guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and may not be invested into directly. Hypothetical examples presented are not representative of any specific investments. Your results may vary. With that, thank you, and we look forward to having you back. Take care.